Right guys, this is going to be my video review for Naughty Dog's latest PlayStation exclusive, The Last of Us. Thank you for watching, leave your comments at the end of the video, and I hope you enjoy it.
I can't...
What if, Joel? I mean, we've come this far, let's just finish it.
Do I need to remind you what is out there?
So a brief outline of the plot. 20 years after a pandemic has radically changed known civilization, infected humans run wild and survivors are killing each other for food, weapons, whatever they can get their hands on. Joel, a violent survivor, is hired to smuggle a 14-year-old girl named Ellie out of an oppressive military quarantine zone. But what starts as a small job soon transforms into a brutal journey across the US. Now this is a very brief outline of the plot, but there is a much deeper meaning behind the plot, and the whole story is revolved around Ellie and Joel and their relationship. You get a deep understanding of each character. We know a lot of Joel's past, and we've seen him develop as a character. And when we first see Ellie, we don't know too much about her, but as the story progresses, we learn a lot about the character, and we learn to really kind of feel for these characters, unlike any other game I've played before. Now there are a lot of side characters and mini subplots on the sides which do pop up every few hours in the game, and it really does kind of mix things up and make it a bit more interesting. But ultimately these subplots and side characters aren't the main focus, but they do tie into the real focus of the game, which, like I said, is the development of the character of Ellie and Joel. The whole plot on this game is wonderfully done, and I honestly believe this is one of the best storylines in any current generation game.
Easy, son. Just take it easy.
The gameplay is where The Last of Us shines, in my opinion. I've never played anything like it before. It's miles above anything else I've played before, and it really is unique. So to start off with, it's a very heavy, slow-paced game, and by that I mean, where it's a post-apocalyptic world, you really need to kind of slow things down. It's not the pace of Uncharted, Naughty Dog's previous game, of course. It's nothing like that. So if you're going into this game expecting that, prepare to feel something very different. It plays very differently to Uncharted. There's a much heavier focus on stealth on this game. Obviously, where we're in this post-apocalyptic world, there's no ammo left, right and centre for you to pick up. You have to ration all your ammo. You have to make sure you use it in emergencies only. There's one controversial element which a lot of people aren't a big fan of, and that's the listen mode. Now, if you've played the Batman Arkham games, it's very similar to Batman's kind of vision, where he can see through the walls and see where the enemies are, and it works in the same way. Joel can see the enemies through the walls by the power of sound. Now, you don't have to use this, of course, and if you play it on the hardest difficulty, you can't use it. They've taken it away, and it makes for a much enjoyable experience. So I do suggest trying not to use it, or playing on survivor mode where you can't use it, because it makes for a much better experience. The game is very eerie, and of course it is a survival horror game, so it's very scary. The majority of the time, the only light you're going to see is your torchlight walking through all the buildings. There's going to be enemies jumping out from anywhere at you. The clickers are the name of the highly developed infected humans, and they make a very high-pitched clicking noise, and you can always tell when they're nearby. And again, it adds to the intensity of the game. It was very scary. Now, there is gun combat in the game, like I did mention, but I also mentioned it's not like Uncharted at all, and that's correct. It's nothing like Uncharted. It's much more heavier. The gun combat is very limited. There's not too many guns in the game. There's a rifle, a shotgun, a couple of pistols, and towards the end of the game you get a bit more higher developed guns. But like I said, you don't use these all the time, so it's not a good idea to kind of run and gun on this game, because it's not the style game. You really have to lay back, think about what actions you're going to take when you go into these next rooms and things like that. Melee is a strong focus on in this game as well, because obviously once you've run out of ammo, you're down to your melee weapons. So you can kind of craft baseball bats and planks of wood and everything. You can craft sort of scissors and everything onto them to make a much more powerful weapon. But for the hand-to-hand combat, I've never quite seen a game so sort of intense. You can really feel every punch. You can feel every swing of the bat. It really is kind of very detailed, very unique. Joel will interact with the environments around him as well. So if you're taking on an enemy right near a sort of a window or a chest of drawers or something like that, he'll smash their head on that chest of drawers. Kind of, it flows perfectly, and it really does add to the intensity of the moment. There's a lot of exploration in the game. When you're not taking on enemies and exploring dark rooms, you're exploring across the vast land of America, which of course has been abandoned, and it really does feel very eerie, very quiet to see the trees and the bushes growing on these streets that used to be paved with people. Even though the game is very linear, you can explore other rooms and everything, which isn't essential to go in, and it does reward you by giving you collectibles, and you can find little scavenge items that you can use to craft new weapons and craft kind of health for Joel and everything like that. But overall, I just want to say how much of a realistic game this is in terms of the gameplay. I've never quite played anything like it. It's very realistic, it's very slow paced, and with the fact that there's not much ammo about, you really have to think about each move you make. So it really is one of the most unique and realistic experiences I've played, and in my opinion, my most enjoyable gameplay experience I've played on this current generation. So in terms of visuals, Naughty Dog had a lot to live up to after making Uncharted 3, because that was a lot of people's benchmark game for what this current generation can do for visuals. But in my opinion, Last of Us has smashed that. I've never seen quite such a beautiful game. I can sometimes see myself just standing still and not progressing with the story because I'm so obsessed with just kind of looking into the distance and seeing this beautiful land that Naughty Dog have created. This is definitely the best your PS3 is going to do. Games such as, like I said, Uncharted 3 and Heavy Rain did look outstanding on the PS3, but in my opinion, the whole kind of setting of The Last of Us really does trump those two games. The overall environment and setting of this post-apocalyptic America is what makes this game stand out in terms of visuals. It's just stunning to look at. There's bright colours when you're outside on the streets, and then it contrasts to the dark, dingy, kind of abandoned buildings only lit by your torchlight. And that's what's great about the game. Every aspect of it looks perfect. And like I said, you will find yourself just standing still and admiring the view. Character models and motion capture is top notch in this game. Naughty Dog have proved that they're kings of the motion capture when it comes to current generation gaming by Uncharted 1, 2 and 3, which they used in all of those games. They've got motion capture back in this one, which adds to the realism of the game. Of course, this is such a realistic game, you want it to look as kind of realistic as possible, and it does do that. The character models look perfect. I've never quite seen character models look as good in this as I have. I really did feel kind of engrossed in just kind of watching these characters, and I wasn't thinking about them as pixelated images. I was looking at them as real people, even though they're fictional characters. I was believing everything they were saying. I was fully engrossed in the story by the way they looked because it was so realistic. Naughty Dog have done wonders with the graphics on this game. When people found out that there would be online multiplayer in The Last of Us, there were a lot of skeptical people out there. I was the same. I didn't know what to expect. But now that I've had the game for quite a while now, and I've had chance to play a lot of it online, I have to say that it's a good solid online multiplayer. It's not going to have the life that games like Uncharted 3, Call of Duty, Battlefield, all that sort of stuff have, because there is a lack of game modes in the game. There's only 2 game modes. One of them is a standard team deathmatch style, and the other one is an elimination style, and that's it. Now the game is much like the single player, where you have to scavenge all your own items, collect your ammo. You don't just start off the map with an assault rifle filled with 90 bullets. That doesn't happen. You'll be given maybe a magnum and one rifle with about 4 or 5 bullets in there, so you have to go out and find your own things, craft your own weapons, and that's what makes it stand out. It's a much more stealth-based online multiplayer. We don't get that in too many games nowadays. I really enjoy the kind of intensity of it. Once you see an enemy, you really feel like you have to use every bullet wisely. It's much like the single player, where you have to think about every move. I have to say that the online multiplayer is very fun, and I can't deny that Naughty Dog have done a good job. I do feel that it was a bit rushed and maybe unfinished due to the lack of game modes in it, but I think maybe if they released a few more via DLC, this could be a good stellar online multiplayer game that could have a lot of fans and would have a very long lifespan. To put it simply, this game is must own. It's one of the greatest games on this current generation, and in my opinion one of the greatest games of all time. It gave me an experience unlike anything I've seen before, an outstanding story, very believable realistic characters, and very fun gameplay that I can't wait to get back into. If you've got a PlayStation 3, you need this game. It's a masterpiece, and that's why I'm going to give this game a 10 out of 10. Solid online multiplayer, solid graphics, solid gameplay, solid story, an overall solid game, and you definitely have to have this one in your collection. Thank you for watching my review, guys. Please rate, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and share with your friends, everything like that. I really do appreciate everyone who watches my videos. So yeah, that was my review for The Last of Us. Leave your comments down below as usual, and I'll see you in my next video.